Okay, so today I'm driving back into Vermont from New York. It's like kind of funny. I should show like every time I drive, which would be too difficult to do. Right, if I'm going to do it, I tend to want to do it for a longer period of time, but it's like... So I went there yesterday to like Bennington, and then I now went back to New York for something, but just on the border, and then I am now going back further, like towards Burlington. So the thing is, let's clown on Vermont a little bit, like I was saying, but the thing is that I don't know, I should have maybe just shown the part where I go back and stuff. Right, so it makes more sense and you see the journey in full, but this is a small little town, Hoosick. Almost seems like one of those names that would be made fun of a little. It sounds a little odd, but who's sick? Not me, haha. What is this? Yeah, sometimes these small towns are kind of cute and quaint and just, you know, the kind of places you've never heard of, right? Just random, and then there'll be like one famous person who came from there, and they'll make that area famous rather than something else, like somebody who was born there and then they didn't live there at all. It'll still be associated with them, like they'll get a statue just because somebody famous came out of there. Yeah, like what are some funny facts about Vermont? There's only like 6 Walmarts there apparently, right? The one that I had seen yesterday is not even a super Walmart. Like it doesn't have a pharmacy seemingly, or auto or anything. It just, in fact, you don't see those anymore. I should have maybe taken a picture or something. That's like that's literally like one of the old school non-Supercenter Walmarts, but it looked even more dingy than that. It's like Walmart's a dying carcass there that doesn't want to be there in Vermont. It just, you know, okay, if we have to put it there, we'll put one there, but like, it just seemed like one of the worst. I didn't even go inside, but it just seemed like one of the worst ones, or tiniest ones we've seen. And then a lot of it is just mountains, apparently. It's one of the least populated states, even though the size geographically isn't that small. Like the 49th or 50th lowest population. It has like the highest percentage population that's older people. It has, you know, it has just totally clowned the shit out of Vermont for some reason. I feel like doing it because that's where we're going for the first time basically ever. I mean, I went there yesterday and came back, but what else? It's like a very white population, like 80+% white population. Like, what is it known for? That's what I want to see. Like, at least Maine, I always bring up the Stephen King thing. That's kind of funny. Like, oh, he's from there, and like there's a few areas that you could go to that are like you know, whatever. There'll be scenes from his movies maybe or something that he tries to reference because he's from there, but I don't know anything about Vermont besides Bernie Sanders, I guess, right? When your most famous person is Bernie Sanders, that's really a sad commentary. So, famous for what? Aside from being obscure. Oh, cheese, I guess. Vermont cheddar cheese. Vermont is known as the Green Mountain State, famous for producing the most maple syrup in the U.S. Yeah, they're wannabes of Canada. Just let them do it. Known for its idyllic rural landscape featuring dairy farms, covered bridges, and vibrant foliage. So maple, agriculture, outdoor recreation, like a lot of good winter sports in the mountains and stuff. I get that. Scenery, seasonality, which basically just means people don't really live there. They just come there to visit and stuff. Craft beverage and food is kind of, you know, that's everywhere though. The highest number of breweries per... That's so weird. Why does that even make sense? Hey, Crypto, how's it going? Why would... I don't know what the reasoning for that would possibly be. Breweries per capita. What is that? But no, it's like this... So we're still in New York right now. Cultural and historic sites, home to the Ben & Jerry's Factory Tour, Revolutionary War sites. Of course, the Ben & Jerry's has to come first before that. So I go, no, Bernie Sanders, save us from the progressives, Bernie. Even though you turned into one. Again, he's an independent thinker that you have to respect for doing what he did. But is that Vermont's most famous human being ever is Bernie Sanders? That we've officially declared it. Which I don't know what to really say about that. Hey, how's it going? That's so sad. Bennington Battle Monument, which I did see that in the background there. At least I think that must be what it was. Like I saw it behind the Walmart there. That dingy. I mean, Bennington is a small town, so what else could it be? But it's just local focused culture. No McDonald's capital. Montpelier is the only U.S. state capital without a McDonald's. I wonder why. Did they make some effort to not do that, or what sense does that make? Or because it's probably such an underpopulated. That must be what it is. It's such a probably tiny town that they don't have a McDonald's. That's crazy. That's how you define a U.S. statistic. Which capital does or doesn't have a McDonald's? U.S. trivia. Like, what kind of a... I love that. That's like one of those, the guy walking down the street and he's like, tell me something I don't know for $5. It's like, did you know the only U.S. state capital without a McDonald's is Vermont? Like, no, we've never thought about that in our whole life, but it's very interesting. Like, approximately 8,000 people, I mean, that's a weird thing, though. Why doesn't it have a McDonald's? I can't type, hang on. It's a monopoly. We're still in New York, right? We haven't crossed over into Vermont. Like, we're going to drive along the border as much as we possibly can and just go in at the last second. Yeah, that is bizarre, though. Like, why no McDonald's? That's a good fun fact to leave in your back pocket, though. Like, nobody would know that. Nation's smallest state capital, population by 8,000. But I know smaller towns, way smaller towns than that have McDonald's. Like, or maybe they closed them at some point, but like, I've known smaller towns, but maybe over time they've closed those ones. Prioritizes local businesses over corporate chains. But don't see now, the city will take credit for that. Not that it really prioritizes that. It won't stop. It wouldn't stop it from coming in. City's planning board. Oh, maybe I'm wrong. Denied a request for downtown location 1995. Okay, never. I just got contradicted by a AI generated thing on Google. I just said, it's just incidental. Maybe McDonald's didn't want to come there, but now they'll take credit. Like, we're local focused. But if they did actually deny it, that's how every town should be. That, like, they stop this globalist agenda, and it's weird. But then again, that's where my blame the audience concept comes in. Blame the public. If people do that, they're letting themselves be ruled by it. Like, it's your fault that you buy iPhones if you don't like Apple, or it's your fault if you buy into these fast food chains and grocery and Walmart and stuff. So then you end up being ruled by them, and they have so much power, but you're the one who builds them up. You're the one who makes them that way. So that's the downside of freedom, that people will choose the easy, convenient option, even if it's subversive to them in the long run, especially if they dress it up and make it seem positive on the surface, but you don't see the bigger, overextended impacts of what you're doing. So let's look up famous people from Vermont. Now, this is kind of a fun topic, you know, as we're going through different states, which inevitably we're going to do. I just wanted it to be a more memorable moment. It's like, oh, I'm going to Vermont for the first time, and it's like, okay, so what? Like, there was nothing about it that's like special, right? It just, I don't know. It better say Bernie Sanders. Famous people from Vermont: Calvin Coolidge, Chester Arthur, founder John Deere, and religious leader Joseph Smith. Grace Potter. Yeah, Bernie Sanders. That's all we need to see, Bernie Sanders. But again, he was an independent, and then he simped out, sold out for the Democratic Party, which I get why you'd feel like you have to do that, but I don't really respect it, right? Or like independent is one of those labels that's like not even a real label, like atheist or something, defined by you're not defined by the specific religion that you are, right, which is outward, but you're defined by not being religious. Like, how? You know, there's so many specific ones. You have to justify the one you believe, or that you outwardly believe, instead of neutrality. And then so again, same thing, like, you know, neutrality in a way. So, you know, sometimes that's like a good psychological piece of advice here. Like, if you're stressed out with your life or something like that, oh, you're paying, like, people always complain about their rent in New York City or something, right? Move to some small town. There's plenty of small towns that would love to have you, or they'd be way cheaper to live there, right? There's plenty of places to go, plenty of other countries. So, like, for the amount that you pay in rent, you know, you're trying to tell me you couldn't move somewhere cheaper, or, right, you'll save in living expenses. You might make a lot less money too, maybe, but you know what I mean? So that's sometimes, like, just try to leave the situation that you're in if it's bothering you. That there's so many fish in the sea type of thing. Don't get caught up on one thing. Don't get caught up on one thing, in one place, in one area, in one partner, stuff like that. There's so many options that you'd be free. So why would you even care, right? Right, don't let yourself get caught up. Oh, you're stressed out, you're living in a big city, then move to a small area. Or don't act like that's the default or the end all be all. Same thing with, like, partners and stuff. Oh, you're stressed out by your girlfriend, boyfriend. Like, there's plenty of fish in the sea. Why do you have to settle for that? Or even, like, you know, a lot of things like that where you have other options. So pretend you're rich, you're a millionaire. Why would you ever get bummed out over anything like that? Like, you have plenty of options of people to be with, or you have plenty of options of places to go. You can go anywhere, do anything. So, like, you would never get too caught up on one thing. So it's sometimes projected as ego, like, oh, this person's arrogant. But it's more like you don't need the social contrivances that other people need to overcompensate for the fact that they don't have those options or standards, so they try to specify and place undue emphasis. Or it's even like something else. It's like, you know, just you would have, you know, if you have options, you have high standards, you have resources, you have means, you have opportunities, then you suddenly aren't bothered by a lot of things, because it's like, it's no big deal, right? There's always, I could just go to the next town. If I don't like this one, I could just go to any other place. I could just, you know, find anybody else to be with or hang out with, or, like, so you would never be left wanting, so you would never be bothered. So part of what you're bothered by is, like, sort of not the specific, but the limitation to the specific, like the kind of nearness postulant argument, right? Where it's not the person you're with that's really bugging you. It's the fact that you're with only one person. There's a difference. And so you can cope with it better, easier in some cases. But it's the fact that you're specifying the stimuli acme is also the fact that you're basically in a position to, I think, common sense farm. I like that. Like what I was saying is that, what do you call it? I totally lost my train of thought. What the hell was it? Basically the fact that, like how you're defined by you're defined by not doing something instead of doing it, like the outwardly, like being defined by being an atheist, or being defined by something you don't do, which shows you like a compelled, contrived state. And then the second part of that was the fact that, you could choose something more simple, so like the options that you have, right? So pretend you're a millionaire or something like that, right? Now you have so many options that you would never get caught up with one thing. You would never obsess over it. It wouldn't be a big deal. You could just get another one. You could just, be with somebody else. You have a lot of opportunities, right? Versus a lot of the stress of the ordinary person is like coping with the less opportunities you have. So it's not necessarily a fault of that particular opportunity, right? Like, okay, who you're with your girlfriend, you're with your wife, you're with your husband, whatever. It's a twofold issue. One is that you would have the temptation that you want something else, you want something more. You want to sleep around, you want to have other partners. The second problem is that you don't have those opportunities. Like, it's the temptation that you want that, but it's also the fact that you don't have those options, so you settle for something else, right? So again, pretend you have those options. Now all of a sudden a lot of that goes out the window, right? So it's sort of a false conflict. It's not about the specific thing, it's about the fact that you're limited in the first place to just one or less options, right? You're born in a small town, you live in a small town, right? You just kind of settle for it and treat it as absolute as default. So it doesn't mean that small town is bad, it just means like, oh, you're limited, whereas if you had more options, resources, that becomes the enemy of contrivance. It's like, whatever you supposedly value, you could just do more of the same, so you wouldn't be as attached to it, right? You can travel the world, you can go anywhere, there's plenty of places to go, plenty of towns, plenty of restaurants, plenty of people to be with. The weather is cold. It's actually not too bad here. It's like 50. How's it going? But yeah, this is our spring. It's almost summer. Like in states like New York and Vermont. We gotta like shoot an Until Dawn. I'm gonna do something like that, I swear. But it's not snowing now. I gotta go in Vermont and do like an Until Dawn parody in the mountains in the snow, right? I don't know if that's where it takes place. I can't even remember, but that feels like the perfect place to do it, right? Make our own Until Dawn sequel. That's what it's known for. Like, what's Vermont known for? Oh, cheese and mountains. Let's go eat some cheddar cheese in the mountains, and that's all you get out of it. But I'm just gonna clown on it fully, dude. Let's go full clown. I'm gonna hire a clown to walk around with me in Vermont and just say, have an arrow pointing to him and say Vermont. Like, just for no reason. It's just so weird. Like, everything about it is just funny. Like, I'm just going in there like, okay, here it is, but there's something missing with it. And of course I have the minimalist ideation, so in a way you would think I would like that, but it's kind of besides the point. Washington County Park Lauderdale facility. Facility, does that mean like it's a jail or what? That's what it makes it sound like. From Indonesia, hey, how's it going? Come to Bali? Yeah, I don't know about that, but I definitely travel a lot, but I'm nervous about going to other countries because then they give you a hard time. You got to go through passports and this and that. Like, going state to state is pretty easy. You barely notice, but like, I even am scared of going into Canada. Yeah, I don't want to have to deal with any kind of headache with that. Not that it should be too big of a deal, but I don't know. Like, will my Starlink work if I go to a different country too? Like, this, It should, but there's like a maritime thing. Like, oh, if you use it on the water, it's different. You have to buy like a different plan for using it on the water. That's almost something I'd do if I was like Mr. Beast. I'll go to small towns and reopen closed shops, right, just to make them vibrant again or something. But like, here's something that people say, Dead Lake. What a name. Why is it called that? Like, people are always coping with something, like the fact that they had to settle for social contrivance their whole life and acquiesce. So now they want something in return for it, but really they were just duped because, like the value for people, oh, what a great thing. But that would apply to anything then, right? People use that to reinforce any country, any era, any society, anything. So it's not exactly very justified, and so yeah, this is a nice scenic kind of route sometimes, but some of these areas don't even have main roads really going to them. That looked like a bird nest on top of the pole there. But yeah, who do you know that actually lives in Vermont? Like, do people actually live here? And obviously some do, but it's just like, it feels more like a seasonal spot, vacation spot, hiking spot, skiing spot, or something like that. And I can't begrudge the farmland either, because there's a lot of that in New York as well. It's definitely not a bad thing, unless Bill Gates buys it all up, but but yeah, like if you were a minimalist, you could maybe come closer to that in the area like this. But the one thing that's always a stark contrast is it'll look like a drab farmland kind of rural area, but then you'll see a car, somebody's car parked at their house. Even the house itself might not be that impressive, but the car parked at the house is like, oh, that'll be kind of fancy or flashy or whatever. So that kind of breaks the whole vibe. That's like the machination process versus something else, but it's kind of like the absolutist way would be like nothing would really look impressive, but it would be impressive. Or even the fact that it doesn't look a certain way is part of the thing too. That it doesn't want to draw attention to itself. That's my one expression I always use, is like true value doesn't want to be known. Right, for various reasons. Like that, why is that? Why would the absolutist be secretive, or not even really secretive, but that's kind of the expression too I would use, is like, it's not that, oh, absolutist has to hide something, it's that why are you looking in the first place? Why are you outwardly insisting? And then the other thing is the fact that you wouldn't want to be known, because if you have something of value, then other people just want to take it, they want to get a piece of it. You'd rather keep it to yourself. Not even that, oh, you're selfish, it's just bat and kill. So we just saw Dead Lake and Salem. Wait, this isn't the Salem. Wait a second, where is the real Salem? That's like Salem's Lot and stuff. Coastal city, but where? Massachusetts, okay. Or could I possibly be in Massachusetts right now? Because they are close to each other. It couldn't be, though. No, I think I'm too far north for that to make sense. That's the thing, I don't even know where I am. Like, I'm sandwiched between 3 states. New York, Massachusetts, like, what is Springfield known for? Like some TV show that takes place there, like The Simpsons or something, right? And like takes place there, haha, but it's not real. Like it doesn't, as if it's live action. Right, like it'll be sad that it's known for that more than anything. But Springfield, The Simpsons. Springfield is a fictional American city. Wait. Oh, I mean, but it's not meant to be that Springfield, I guess. I'm associating the real city with the fake one that's not even apparently based on it. That's why, like, even town names are not... Your own name isn't unique. There's millions of people with names like that. Even town names aren't unique. There's one in every state or whatever, like, all over. So what is it that you define your identity by? And anything you do is just limiting you, right, from your full potential. So the thing, you know, preconceived value, non-base of self, no true value standard behind it. Trained animals coping with their subversive nearness reactionary state. Historic Salem. Yes, settled. I wish they would invaded. Don't say settled. Say invaded. Native Americans killed in this year. Like, try to dress it up, but. All so that we could do what? All our fucking globalist corporate, like that's the problem, right? Even the invaders become the conquered people over time in a different way. Like now, oh, what's here? It's going to be these globalist corporations taking over everywhere you go. That's like the mentality of the settled person who's like, they're stuck in one place. What is with all these weird names of... We've seen in like a 10-mile radius, we've seen Dead Lake, we've seen something kill, and then we've seen Salem, like burying ground. Like, what is all this cryptic messaging that we're getting? Stop calling stuff things like that. Like, stop calling boats the Titanic and then something bad happens there. Like, dude, that submarine that sank or whatever. But no, like the absolutist true value doesn't want to be known either. Again, not even that was selfish, but they know that other people would be out to get something. So if you have something of value, you wouldn't make a big spectacle. You wouldn't show it off, right? You would just keep it, let it speak for itself, and you wouldn't draw attention to it. So true value doesn't want to be known. It doesn't want to make spectacle. It doesn't want other people to know, because then they'll try to take a piece of it for themselves. And then even the other side of that would be like, doesn't take any ego in it, zero-sum process, means to an end, measure. And then there's one other thing that you know, sort of like the pseudo-human value with that. Like, oh, you value people and socially, but you let that be used as a tool to reinforce globalist corporations everywhere you go. It's like, oh, be nice to the cashier. They work in your local environment. Meanwhile, where they work, the store they work at, is a scourge on the local environment, kills all the mom and pop shops. Like Walmart takes over, like, and blame the public, blame them for buying there, going there, and supporting that. Again, not excluding myself, but I'm just saying that's, you create the monster and then you complain about it. So it's not, you're not the victim, you're the perpetrator. But also true value doesn't want to be known. Again, goes to the other thing, like, oh, when an absolutist takes somebody out in their sleep, assuming they had that intention for whatever reason, you know, you'd say, oh, honor, this or that. Those are just ways to control people. It's like, what honor is there in history, right? How you got to where you are. There was no honor when people just invade other countries and kill everybody. So what it means is that, you know, they would do that because whatever, they wouldn't give any sign. So it's almost like what you see in gangster movies. Sometimes, like, they'll do like a little look or a little nod and they won't say anything, and then they'll do it. They won't make like a big spectacle of confrontation. Whether they're going to do it or not, that wouldn't be useful, right? Emotion isn't useful. It's irrational and insistence upon the self. So they wouldn't make a big spectacle out of it. So they would say, okay, they made the decision to do it, but they don't show any sign that they made a decision to do it. So now they won't face any opposition in trying to do it. And so either they'll do it cleanly when not expected, or they won't, but they wouldn't argue and make a big thing out of it. And the reason why is because now they, then they might face opposition. Like, why open yourself up to that? So it goes against like some of the villain tropes in like movies and stuff, where they got to give a big speech and do a big thing. It's like the Absolutist has a measure, so they wouldn't be doing that. Like, they don't have any ego, they don't have anything to prove. It's just all about the end goal. So they're already sure of what they're doing, so they don't need external validation, basically, right? If what they're doing is worth it, speaks for itself. Whereas those who are in a half-mad state require constant overcompensation, reinforced with their externalities, social contrivance, etc. And those same people who would condemn and ridicule and not think themselves are supposedly credible, and the people who do think are supposedly bad, they have to condemn thought to prevent the cognitive dissonance of being an unthinking, mindless, reactionary state. Thought has to be the enemy, even though it defines people, separates them from animals. These trees are gonna fuck with my starling. But no, that would be one reliable thing, hopefully, that like this would work from state to state, no matter where you go. Right, Elon Musk saves the day. Yeah, social contrivance, if you're aware of the nature of the process, everybody's kind of like preconceived and indoctrinated that way. You self-create, like it would be conditional, that's how it would start. Okay, we may be on conquered land, we may be on the graves of the Indians, we may, whatever it is, we may be putting up with these corporations, we may be doing it to make a living, but at some point, at what point do you not take pleasure in those things, and you say we're going to remove the need, we're going to be free of it, we're going to self-govern, at what point do you do that? And you do it when you stop preserving the stimuli so flippantly, or you do it when you but instead it becomes like you take pride in it. Not saying there's anything negative with that specific state, but it's not absolute exclusionary to everything else. It doesn't have the base of outward insistence. The only reason why you're valuing it in the first place is because it's already established, so now you're acquiescing to something you were indoctrinated into that you didn't even choose, that you were indoctrinated into when you were young, right, stuff like that. So you got about an hour and a half to go, and Kathy Hochul sucks, sign. Great commentary. Yeah, and she got in on like a loophole too, the Andrew Cuomo getting ousted or whatever. They'll find an excuse to get rid of you when it's convenient, right? Like, that's kind of the thing I always say, like, oh, everybody, if you follow them for 100 miles on the highway, is going to have done something wrong, but they'll selectively pick when to target you, right? That's the problem. Like, even with Donald Trump or something, whether you like the guy or not, it's like, oh, everybody sucked up to him until he was president, then they go after him. It's like, what's the inconsistency with that? It's a selective application. They'll find something to get you on if they really want to. It's kind of like, oh, why would somebody be like secretive or something, or like reject the ego? Town of Hebron. No, I prefer Lebron myself. Somebody's got to graffiti that, totally not me. Instead of H-E Bron, you just make the H to L. Like, oh, you hide something, or like you reject the ego basis. So it's not like, oh, you're ashamed of yourself or you're somehow lacking of yourself. It's not that. It's the fact that you reject the ego basis overall. So you could be elitist, you could be most accomplished, but you still reject that. It's not about you, it's about standards, it's about a practice, it's about zero-sum end. The self kind of obscure is arbitrary. And then the other part of it is the fact of you acknowledge those in power. You acknowledge those in power that they already are established a certain way, or the way that people think and are already controlled. So you have to hide something because you know how they're going to react to it. Doesn't mean it's bad, it just means that you're subject to their authority and power. So you acknowledge their power, it doesn't validate their position, right? But you know you would have to hide it. So you're in World War II Germany, it's like, oh, that makes you look bad, that you're, like this is how people treat it. Like, oh, why are you hiding if what you're doing is okay? But you would have had to hide it, otherwise, again, somebody's going to come to get you for helping the Jewish people, or like the Underground Railroad, or anything. So you have to hide it because people in power are not going to tolerate it. So you acknowledge the power they have in whatever's going on, but it doesn't validate that they're right. That's the funny thing with neutrality and objectivity, is it doesn't even make a claim, but it would make them uncomfortable because they're not actually outwardly reinforcing it in a way that it requires to be done, because they're not at peace with it themselves by their own standard, because it's inconsistent, no basis for outward insistence. They're victims of contrivance too, but they'll insist upon it. Free library here, enjoy. It looks like a garage or something. What is that? Yeah, this seems like a vacation type state, retirement type state. Older people state. These are the memes that we got to travel the world to find these memes. Right. LeBron. Town of LeBron. I'm sure there is probably some, though there will be now, at least named after. Or some part of it will fall off on one side and then it'll look like that. Yeah, like farming is a pretty good example of minimalism and self-sufficiency, sort of, but you're still reliant on externality a lot. And it's, it's sort of the fallacy sometimes, like with the privilege of empires. It's like, oh, you want to act morally righteous, but you wouldn't be in the position you are to act morally righteous with the surplus abundance of resources that historically your ancestors or the country overall has. Indian Head Village. Oh, here we go, more of the cryptic things. But yeah, if it wasn't for that, you wouldn't have the access to resources collectively, even in the country that you're in or whatever. You get out to a head start globally through all that injustice, and now you want to act morally superior as a pretense to then create, we're spreading freedom to get oil and stuff like that. You use a pretense to do more of the same. But what it means is that I don't know. You basically you wouldn't have that as a basis. So like the privilege of empires, you squabble over morality or act like morally superior. It doesn't matter, because you wouldn't be in that position if you didn't have the access means or whatever. And then what you do with them, we can give you credit conditionally, but it's like you had that backing. So there is no moral gratification or superior gratification. It's like it's built on the impropriety, it's built on that immorality. And then, like in a historical basis, how would the minimalists be? The minimalists living at peace, and they're hunting and fishing, and they're just living in nature, and they're happy with that. They're not greedy, they're not selfish, they're not hurting anybody else. They're consuming relatively pretty little. That would be trampled over by those who are greedy, selfish, outwardly, and says there's a bit of a fallacy to like the local, like big corporations take over and then they still want the local deference and treatment. It's like overextended empirical, but they still want you to appreciate and defer on a certain level, but read the way you would expect to do on an initial local level. But the point is that what I was saying is like it requires that means privilege. So it's like either, like let's look at it this way. You could say, the only reason why somebody is self-righteous and whatever is because their parents were rich. But then you could say the only reason why this entire country and everybody in it, even the poor people relatively, are like, you're civilized or you're in a certain state, is because of the privilege of empires that, if they didn't take things by force and do all that. You could say that about a lot of parts of the world, but it's like, it was never a level playing field, because the one that gets out farthest ahead is going to be the one that goes to the most extremes that others are maybe not willing to do. So there's a certain weird quality to that. And now the modern day is like a shadow war that's happening behind the scenes because you this drive was moderately scenic as well. The one thing I'm confused about for most of it is I don't know even if I'm in New York or Vermont. I think I've been in New York basically the whole time, but it's like right on the edge. In fact, this literally might be as close to the edge. We're edging Vermont and we're not even there yet. Like this might be literally the road adjacent to that because I don't know, we're just super close to it. Yeah, that's like what people would do. People would insist upon anything no matter what it is, right? Or like even the way people are indoctrinated, it's like the only basis of her control was zero-sum means and means validation, and now you're supposed to take that seriously later. It's like, wouldn't it be more objective to not insist upon those things that you experienced that you didn't choose, and to be objective and hold an actual standard? Because you know the average person is incentivized and they're incentivized and they're whatever to reinforce the state that they're already in, right? Nobody is objective. It's all you know, you have an incentive to reinforce the specific state that you're in, even if it's a subversive, lower, lesser state, relative to what you'd like or want or whatever standard you have. That's the thing, people wouldn't have any credibility to outwardly insist or reinforce. It's like, you can do what you're doing, but what you're doing is outward and part of an unqualified, empirical, overextended structure. And so much so that you have to do things that would hurt your credibility. You engage in folly, favoritism, escapism, half-mass hedonism, you know, drugs, alcohol, liquor. So how can you be credible to reinforce a state that outwardly insists? You're not credible, the mass isn't credible, you're just indoctrinated sheep. So you have no credibility because, right, it's just not consistent with how you're doing it. It's one thing to do something, but you're doing it in such a way that outwardly insists upon other people. That we basically want to we do have to make a turn here finally or something, but no, like, is social contrivance really a credible measure? You got to think like it's the way that people are controlled is what they're reduced to versus an infinite objective mind, and everything seems like ego hierarchy thing that they're trying to compete, but it really doesn't prove anything, right? Social contrivance doesn't prove anything. Half-mass functionalism doesn't prove anything. It's a zero-sum process anyway. But it's all like conditional coping with an unqualified state to which you are the victim too. The people are suckers for appearances and a weird spot for a car dealership, I must say. What is that, dude? Dude, like, how hard would that have been to make? Like, at least the land. That land would have been cheap as hell. You could say that's one, well, even all this might be McDonald's. There's a McDonald's here. There's not a, just remember that. There's a McDonald's in Granville, but there's not a McDonald's in Montpelier, however you say it, Vermont. Trying to see if there's something different than what we normally see, like some restaurant chain that's only unique to here, or some stores and stuff. That's like the shifting face of the modern reptilian globalist thing, is like they'll just switch out the name of the logo, like, oh, you hate Walmart, but then, oh, you'll go to Target, or oh, you'll go to a different thing, like. Concept that you need permission to do anything in society, kind of like everything is privilege or permission to do things that you'd be inherently capable of doing in the first place, often aided by the machination process to try to seem to justify. You know, absolutists wouldn't tolerate contrivance because, oh, they can do anything and they're just holding back for other people, like they don't need anything. They don't, and then the minimalists, oh, they don't want anything, so you're controlled on behalf of things you don't need, that you don't want. You hold back and you reduce yourself to a lowest common denominator for the sake of other people, especially on social contrivance level, and then that reactionary state that you're doing on behalf of them is used then to justify controlling you. Like, oh, see how this person is in this highly controlled, curated contrivance state that they're reacting to and deferring to, therefore that justifies the state that they're in. But that isn't really, they're only doing that to justify or to acquiesce in contrivance. So, like, no, they could literally kill a bear out in the wild, or they could do whatever, you know, whatever it is. They could do what they got to do to survive, but you're not allowing them to do what they want or what they choose. So it allows you to, I don't know. Right, you reduce yourself to the lowest common denominator for the sake of other people, and then you're forced into doing that, and then that state that you're reducing yourself to is then used to justify something like. again, like the means validation where you like prey on, you can go to a different country and then you'll feel like a king or whatever. Like people prey on certain things that are like more desperate, right? Like that's one of the sad things about relationship incentives with age is like, especially with celebrities, is the financial dependency that acts as a factor to make certain things easier or whatever, right? Which is a real issue with like the male side of things and like propaganda, like, oh, women should be at home and cooking and cleaning and stuff. Part of the reason why people would still say that, as stupid as that is like because they you know, there's almost that idea that they want women to be reliant, because if they're not and they're independent, like when they mock like, oh, strong career woman and stuff, like what's wrong with that? Now they're not as reliant on you, so now it would be separate, right? It wouldn't be about the money. And the reason why is because yeah, they'll like, you'll be going to meet somebody somewhere in a town you're not familiar with. It's like, oh yeah, meet me at that place, and they're like, I don't even know what that place is. Ah, yes, of course, let's meet by the old local store that you know by heart that I've never heard of in my life. Or like my phone service wasn't working. Right, like even right now, it's not working. I don't think. What's happening? What happens is, like, okay, let's look at this concept. The fact that if you know something too well or do something too well, that turns into a bad thing. Like, it's the same process, but if you're aware of the process, make them aware of the process is bad. You got to cover it up and euphemize it. It's like, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. You see that a lot with stimuli, like in media and stuff. There's a benefit, or even in society in general, there's a benefit to it that you're getting, but you don't want to be held accountable or called out for it. Certain things are done just for social reasons, like drinking and stuff like this, that is weird. Like social contrivance is used to scam you in all areas of life. Everything is a scam. Tipping is a scam. Don't feel bad for the waitress. Hold accountable the business owner who's underpaying them that they couldn't get away with doing in any other job. They just go out of business and not be able to run. But now you feel bad and give it to the waitress instead of the cook or whatever too. But no, ideally you shouldn't tip. They should be able to pay a livable wage, and then a tip would truly be a bonus and not compulsory. Or even like right to farm law. You shouldn't need the right to farm. You should need a good reason not to farm. Right, like fallacy of permission. Yeah, like people aren't truly aware or don't fully appreciate even what they're doing at times. Like take for granted. Instead of everything being like a full self-actualizing experience, you treat a false absolute default, things you don't need, struggle for things you don't need, that you don't want, controlled by things you don't need. I always wonder how some of these hotels survive in all these weird random areas, but you know, obviously seasonally, or the people just live there and treat it almost like a house. But yeah, social contrivance obscures and distracts, so the one who doesn't talk is actually observing, and you can show this as a character dynamic. They don't talk, but they closely observe everything and are aware at a deeper level of the process, whereas the others are talking and it distracts them and obscures them. So like, let's look at how social contrivance is used to scam you in every area of life. It's you know, the tipping thing, the alcohol. You pay way more at a bar than you can pay at a liquor store, just because, oh, the social experience, or you want to hit on somebody or get hit on or whatever, you know, something like that, fallacy of permission environment. And then you also have the ability to, because you don't have free will, you have to, whatever, be given permission that way. And then the thing is that you're basically in a position to be controlled, like in food service even. Like, yes, food service is a hard job, but it's you're paying more there than you would otherwise, partly for the social experience. So when social contrivance is used as a crutch, it means it's a subversive process that, you know, we do it. I still think I'm in New York. Like, I don't even know, dude. They're going on like a straight line up, so we're literally driving across the border, basically, of the state. Yeah, it's like the Absolutist would see the larger process. So, for example, they wouldn't care about the specifics or initial, or be dressed up by appearance and pretense of presentation. But that's kind of how social contrivance is used as a tool to control you. Like, okay, you if somebody was nice about it. So, oh, if they were nice about it, you'll tolerate the unqualified empirical monopolization over nature as held by big corporations and globalists around the world. You'll tolerate that if, you know what I mean, if they're nice about it, the cashier, etc., surface level appearance, pretense, nice old lady, whatever. But if they're not, then, oh no, that's bad. So you're conceding to a non-value subversive state that you didn't choose, that you would have a problem with cognitive dissonance if you're fully aware of the nature of the process. But instead, you're upset or satisfied by the appearance and how it's presented and curated to you after careful preparation. That's what you care about, you're concerned about. Never mind the inherent reality behind it, underneath and stuff. So you're basically a bit stupid, is a way of saying it. But like, it's annoying to have to explain stuff like that, but whatever. Let me criticize this trend of like the hidden camera glasses type of content. There's a lot of videos like people walking out trying to riz people or ask them questions and stuff, do like SpongeBob and shit with a little notepad, this guy going around, and they're using like these hidden camera glasses so that people are being recorded without them knowing and consent. And it's like, people like these videos, but it's a bit of an odd thing to do, but like something you would criticize if you're really aware of it, but you're not, or you're not really thinking about it, so you take it at face value. But people are genuine when they don't know they're being recorded, whatever. But it's a bit of an odd thing to do, and it's like, so it shows you like people want the result of impropriety, but they don't want to be held accountable for it or do it themselves. So, you know, or like too many options, too many thoughts are a bad thing. People almost, you know, they're on RBO protocol, they're used to being controlled, so they want to be told what to do. If you give them the freedom or the option or the choice, if you remove the need, even try to remove the structure, even try to remove yourself, that's a bad thing. They want to be controlled. They want you to appeal to their ego. But what if you want them to be free, self-governed? Right? What if you you're like, no measure, no true value can exist. You can see to a non-value subversive thing, and then, oh, there we go. There's Vermont. So you can see no value can exist besides projected non-basic self thing, and now we might cross back into New York at some point. But you know, you can see the non-value subversive state, but then there's no basis for structure. Have functionalism constantly held accountable. Handheld electronic devices prohibited. To be fair, even parts of New York are like that. Like northeastern New York is kind of like that. There's a lot of just empty space. The best barometer of that is sometimes look for Walmarts. How many Walmarts are there? Rutland or not yet, but sounds like a very classy town. Old school bagels. But no, I do like the emphasis sometimes on the local kind of shops. It's just too bad that there still will be, you know, even if there are some local shops, you know, there's Dollar General, like there's always going to be something overextended like that, or like they'll start. You'll create the next monster then instead. Like, now you'll support your local business and then it'll turn into a big business. It's like, I don't know. Oh, I didn't even see that guy had his stop. Think about it this way, like, rules exist for the mass collective. On the individual basis, you have no use for it, you have no need for it. It assumes you're dumb, it assumes you're weak, you lack ability, you can't control yourself, you can't be trusted. You know, if you're good enough, you can get away with it. If you're capable enough, you don't need to be restricted that way. Right, but it assumes that you're dumb and you follow it just for that reason alone. So you follow things even if they don't serve a purpose, like stopping a red light, even if nobody's around, or you condemn things that don't have any harm, like even you condemn like you see, this is something different. Shaw's. Now, is that just a standalone thing or is it a franchise? Because I've never seen that like before in my life. Yeah, this town has McDonald's, but not Montclair. That really makes no sense. when they take credit for something like that, emphasis on local stuff. But then why do you allow it everywhere else, right? Then don't allow be consistent. Then don't allow McDonald's anywhere in the whole state if you want to be like that. But the thing is that appearances, pretense, and social contrivance is necessary to create a hierarchy. I've already discussed that kind of at length, but the one thing is that I don't know. That's weird. There was another Sheldon Road way back. That might have been in New York, but it couldn't possibly be the same one. Troubles End Lane. That's a nice road name. That could be a fun format too for like a YouTube or something. You do something comical like to do with that. The Troubles End. So I'll take a sign that says the word trouble, and then I'll put it at the end of that road, and then I'll like blow it up because, or whatever, do something dramatic to it. Like, oh, that's the end of the trouble, haha. Like, this is the kind of stupid stuff you would see in a YouTube thing. So, like, what you see is people value things in a subversive, reactionary way if it's done like that. But the idea of it, they lack, really what it is, they lack the imagination. So, like, oh, they need everything to be laid out for them, and it comes down to the appearance and performative thing to make it be valuable. But the same as I think if they thought about it or heard about it, they would think, oh, it's dumb. Or there's like a dependent over set of pretense that's necessary and valid. So it's like, the vanity of people, the selfishness of people, all this used to control them, basically. And so, yeah, this is turning into like some sort of travel log type thing. So between I think that's one thing I'm having trouble in the state with is the phone. My one straight talk thing phone is not doing so good. To have taken place, the Until Dawn. Setting spray. No. Setting. Fictional Blackwood Mountain in the Canadian Rockies of Western Alberta. Okay. I like when it'll be fictional, but it's actually a place too. It's like, just the name of the place is different, but you got Rami Malek in his origin story before he becomes a James Bond villain there. He's got like that whispery thing. thing that's not trustworthy about appearances and performative aspects is the fact of like, the free, variable, aware person is like, well, that applies to everything, or, like a person can be free and think and do anything at any time. So if you'll project it, you'll be like self-insistent, myopic, projection, performative kind of thing, because you're obsessed with yourself and then you're controlled by the ego basis and stimuli, acme, and stuff like that. So, you'll project into something, whether it be structure, human function, zero-sum mean, stimuli, acme, and stuff like that. So you almost desire to be controlled by something at half mass, overcompensated for. So if it's not present, then you take issue with that. Because you're so used to being controlled that you start to desire the trappings of it, which is often social contrivance, undue emphasis, ego appeal, overcompensation, versus like removing the need, non-ego basis, self-governance. So the one thing that I want you to understand is that it's like, you'd be free and everything, so, free in mind, so your performative aspects don't define you, and it's like, it's not very credible. And then anybody with any degree of self-awareness, which I guess people just don't have and they're not meant to have, would be aware themselves of that, like, they wouldn't serve a purpose. It's like you're to the point, same measure, but like it means that people are dumb and they're not aware themselves of their own performative aspects, stuff like that. They just do it without thinking. So if you are thinking that's somehow a bad thing, even though, again, it could be easily carefully curated and people do that and they train to do that. It's like being self-aware is somehow a bad thing, preconceived is a good thing. You'd rather have a preconceived established structure than a self-aware, self-actualizing element. Right, so their ego, outward insistence, neediness for hierarchy, stuff like that is very present. The ego basis, again, by which they're controlled and constantly competing and hierarchy and stuff. There's constant incentive behind that, so lack of incentive is ironic. The lack of a process or an incentive is projected as that process, because why? Because people are so used to it. So it's like, that's like the RBO protocol, like truth doesn't matter, reality doesn't matter, but they'll project how they're controlled. So they're used to being controlled by social contrivance, or everything is incentivized, like stimuli, acme, or zero-sum means. So if nothing is there, it's still projected to be that. Like, oh, you must just be awkward and quiet, and you fail to achieve that. Or it must be, you want to do it, but you just aren't good enough at doing it. What if you just don't want it? Or what if you believe, again, in self-governance thing, where you respect people's intelligence, but you can't do that because people are dumb, so you shouldn't. Or, you're letting people be free and removing the need, and it's like, oh, but that just means you lack the ability or lack confidence, not that you're making deliberate choice to reject the ego basis and not try to seek from that. So one of the other things is the fact that so they'll see it where it isn't there because they're used to being controlled where it is there, like by overcompensation, stuff like that. They take for granted, defer to human social contrivance in service of an unqualified empirical overextended state. So anything, in service of anything. So what it tells you is that, if you project it as the inability to do this false, absolute, false duality projected thing, not that it's not absolute, not that that isn't it. So respecting people's intelligence, trying to remove the need, something that is bad, it would reveal that, oh, well, without that, then maybe the process itself is unqualified, and that might be the whole point that you're demonstrating. Don't specify something unqualified monopoly over nature itself, stuff like that. But free to do anything anytime, or there'd be no sign of it. It's like, that might be true, but theoretically people can do that anyway, or they're defined by externality, they're slaves to that. You'd rather people and yourself be a slave to externality and your emotion and reactionary basis than to be self-aware and then choose it for yourself. Somehow that's a bad thing because it's too free and we can't have that. Right, so people, the unknown is what scares people. It's like, could be anything, it's a variable. They'll project something about themselves, or self-insistence, or stimuli, projections, zero-sum means, etc. Or they'll even do it in such a way that, again, like freedom is bad, the variable is bad, thinking is bad, typical kind of propaganda. Everything's good, initial basis, preconceived notion, non-basic self, nearness postulate, relativity, reactionary. Right, so you reject the ego basis, but then you're punished for it because people are ruled and controlled by it. You try to free them of it, but they desire it. There's a guilty pleasure. It's incentivized, base of value, not credible at all, but apply to anything, arbitrarily. It's kind of pretty self-explanatory, but I have to explain it again, apparently. But, that's the assumption. People don't think. They don't think. So that's pretty much, I don't even have to, don't think what? Just don't think, period. But that they hate thought, they condemn it. So in a thinking person or pensive person, like, it's one of a few things. They lack the ability, they're dumb, they're stupid, they have to think too long about this false steps to a half mass. Not different measure, not anything else. They could be thinking about larger process, etc., self-awareness. Not that thought is the whole goal and meaning of life and purpose and everything. Like, think about this scenario. Like, somebody's thinking actively about various things. It's like, that's a bad thing. Versus the false absolute half functionalism that would be like, remove the need for it on that basis. And then, but they require constant social contrivance and ego gratification. So that's the same thing. It's like, which is better? That's the lowest common denominator of the same form. Whereas you could think about something more objectively, etc. So it's really a non-basic self ego insistence versus something standard, true, objective, inherent, maybe not consistent with the subversive state that they're in, that requires constant reinforcement, externality, etc. So that would be very interesting because one thing again is like, what if you're self-aware? What if you're thinking and free and variable? It's like, that's somehow a bad thing because they're preconceived notions, something like that, projection, false duality. It's how they're controlled is necessary for them to perceive their state a certain way, but it's not based in truth, right? So the asexual who doesn't feel the need to justify themselves when the stimuli is projected or something like that is quite interesting. The one character I wrote about in my short story is like that. It's like, truth doesn't matter to them. So why should you have to justify it, right? They're just projecting what they're obsessed with and how they're controlled. So it doesn't really matter what the truth is. And show you how not credible they are. So the one thing is, so if you're free and self-aware, so what can happen is, that means you could manipulate the performative aspects that people take seriously at face value for granted. So again, it comes down to the individual. Like, it's your fault, that means you're fake if you're aware of the nature of the process or free and variable. Not their fault for expecting it to be something it's not, or like treating it as absolute when it's a variable process. Like, people are not robots that behave all the way at the same time, all the same way all the time. So if you expose that, or if you're aware of that, it's somehow a bad thing. So people control you that way, and part of that is the fact that so if you're aware of that, that's bad. But meanwhile, people control you like that all the time. And so you defer to this like weird halfway lowest common denominator, but any amount of self-awareness would show you that. So again, that awareness is projected as negative, or it's something like you're just aware of the nature of the process, but it'll be like, oh, that's just you being bad. Like, oh, that's you being cynical or something. Not them being naive or stupid. It's just, you know, because the mind is too free and infinite and objective compared to the limited physical state, and social contrivance. So it's not a very credible indicator of that. It's like you're always the same, never too high, never too low, doesn't serve a purpose, emotion, nothing but a rational system on the self. And then what happens is that you basically, so you're aware that people could have any performative aspect, anything that they want, but that's somehow a bad thing, just being aware of it. And it's projected like, oh, that person broke the illusion of the face value false absolute, but meanwhile other people control you by that, and society itself overall, so they control you by that. That's not bad because you're not aware of it, because you don't want to think naive kind of good fortune, good natured kind of thing you want to believe. And then the simply being aware and free is projected into a negative, because that's necessary to control people. Again, it's necessary for them to be controlled, necessary to control you. Right, so if it doesn't apply and you're kind of unconditional or variable or free, then that would be like, oh, now this contrivance state doesn't have to exist, or, you know, it's this uniformity, right? Like, what if, oh, you're asexual or you're not interested in that? How can you be subject to the privilege, preconceived projection, whatever? How can that be? And the way that it can be is it can be like, basically, well, why are they in pairs like that? Like, they're sitting trying to be all cute, but they're sitting in a pair. But no, what happens is that the preconceived, I don't even know what the speed limit here is. I thought it was 40, but then I thought it changed. The only 2 cops in this county of Vermont, like, that means this must be a very heavy traffic road. So yeah, it's like you're aware and free and variable and measure, and it's like they want attention and ego, overcompensation and control to be controlled, overcompensated for the fact that they're being controlled. If you don't want to control them, then what? That means, oh, that process shouldn't exist and be specified, which is agreeable. You may very well do that. So nuance isn't allowed, measure, freedom, variable. Human beings are robots, false duality, controlled. So that projection is necessary to control, because it's like, what if that doesn't apply, right? It doesn't matter that it doesn't apply. It'll be projected anyway where it doesn't apply. Right, because that, like, on a societal level, it's easier just to group things like that. Right, you're projected, must be stimuli acme. Women have that female privilege, like, you know, thing in their mind. So the truth and reality doesn't really matter. Right, they're projecting constantly. And then, I thought this thing usually tells you what the speed limit is, the GPS, but it's 50, I guess. Bro's got twin cops camping over there. Like, bro, this state isn't big enough to justify that. That was like a perfectly horizontal splash. There's a lot of farms, a lot of mountains. I can't really hate the farm aspect. I actually kind of like that, but yeah, the performative awareness of, like, just do or say anything anytime they want. It's like that somehow makes you fake, but it's kind of like that makes you free versus a slave, a structure reduced, necessary functional control, reducing the infinite objective mind to the limited physical state. So that is, like, what if I just, because I like showing the drive in a way, but like I'm getting tired of talking sometimes, so like what, okay, I'll just watch. I really have to charge that stupid headphone so that I can do both. Then I can relax, watch videos. Like I should do portions of these, and like, but now I feel like I have to mute it because then I don't want you to hear the video. I have to charge my Bluetooth little stupid headphones that I keep forgetting. So I'll just let it run for a little bit and just keep stretch, let's do a little more. So let's just look at the concept of like thinking or not thinking. That somehow thinking is bad or projected, like, oh, you're crazy or something like that. Because it gives people cognitive dissonance, so they have to shoot the messenger or whatever. But they can think the same too. The fact that they, like, you would think the person who thinks more is more credible, or at least is trying to consider things objectively, versus people who don't think. Then at least like the full of sound and fury signify nothing. So it seems good on the surface of people. RBO protocol, define value by reaction, collective kind of, you know, the value of something is how it's portrayed to you, not what it actually is. So social contrivance over compensation, arbitrarily defining. The same exact event could be happening, practice could be happening, but somebody presents it to you with good performative aspects, like, oh, they're nice about it or something, that makes it good. And then somebody doesn't do that, and that makes it bad. So, like, you're a slave to that initial performative thing because it's the same thing that's going on. So you wouldn't be at peace with it, but if they overcompensate for it, like, that's what determines it. That shows you you're already conceding to a non-value subversive state. Like, oh, all of nature is already monopolized by big corporations. And now it comes down to, well, but you kind of already give up and give into that. So now it's like, oh, at least are they nice about it or not? Not whether that's the sound process in the first place that you evidently have cognitive dissonance with. If it's not overcompensated for adequately, then you take issue with it. The one who doesn't think is credible, apparently. The one who does, like, just think about that as an icon. The mass, collective, loud, sound and fury signify nothing, social contrivance, ego gratification, and insistence, unsafe to pass. Want to bet? That comes down to your own ability to pass, which I hate doing anyway. But why is it unsafe to pass? Because, like, it's a blind spot, or it's apparently safe to pass from the other lane because there's the lines, but. We saw Bennington last night. We're going to see Burlington here. And what I keep thinking about is every time I see Burlington Coke Factory or something, is that what it's from or based on, or is that somewhere else? I don't know. Try to do the zestiest yawn possible. Carl Anthony Towns yawn. But no, it's like people are appealed to reactive, collective, kind of lowest common denominator. Let's look at something like the 6-7 meme or whatever. It shows you how people are controlled in a different, darker kind of sense. People mindlessly repeat something over and over, even if they don't know why, or, you know, it's like the fallacy of tradition. So that shows you how they're controlled in politics and other ways too, that they're not credible. First of all, that they're just stupid and care about things like that, folly, favoritism. But the fact that they also, you know, all it takes is repetition for people to value and obsess over something in mass. There's no real standard behind it. They couldn't even explain necessarily what it is or why they value it. So that's all you would have to do to control people. Do some mass exposure, maybe in some unpredictable way that's, you know, kind of contrast to the preconceived notion they're controlled by. They repeat it over and over, and then it becomes part of their psyche, and it's like there's no real there's no basis to it. It's not like a choice. It's not like you sit there and think, I value this for this reason, right? You're not doing that. You're just reacting. So no matter what it was, if it wasn't 6-7, it could just be anything else. It shows you the arbitrary way in which people value stuff, and there's no standard credibility value behind it. Again, they couldn't even necessarily explain it, but they still value it, focus on it, or care about it, or think about it. So it shows you on the darker level, like there's a lack of standard behind it is the problem, right? And the reason why is because these were all felt like more local roads than what you would typically get, but they're not, they weren't actually too bad. Toy Storage, and they took the logo from Toy Story. That's kind of cool, but maybe plagiarism. But this whole, sometimes you say it's like a quaint town. This seems like a whole quaint state because it's just everything's very low key, kind of. But no, it shows you the incentive of people already in a state, in an area that you didn't even choose. You insist upon it, react upon it, kind of like the family system fallacy. There's a lot of preconceived notions, projection, things like that. Or like, if somebody's, like muted performative aspects and like they're always the same, it seems like, oh, that's negative, and a false negative of non, but they could just be at peace and they don't extract value from externality, so they're just kind of aware of the nature of the process and just go along with it, but it doesn't mean that they rely on it or that, they really extract value or ego from it, right? They're just aware of it and like the social contrivance song and dance you have to go through, but imagine taking it seriously or obsessing over it, to bypass critical thinking, to be controlled by it. The true goal would be for everybody to be free of it. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's a little... I've been tired the last few times I've done this. Like, I don't know. Sometimes I would be able to go for much longer, but I haven't felt like it. There's so many things I could react to, so I just got to get the Bluetooth headphone thing. Like I could react to the NBA. Stuff like that, Lakers versus OKC. I actually think that'll be a really good series, and it'll go like 7 games, right? OKC will still win, but it will be, I think, a really great series. Although I don't know Luka's health and all that. Yeah, I'm typically not listening to music or anything when I'm doing this, right? Or I'll typically say it when I am, so I'm usually just talking the whole time, but I gotta have more of a plan, I guess, for what I talk about. That one day I was really cooking. The one day I was like, it was like a 6-hour stream, and I was like going through all these different topics. I was really, really focused that day. It's like a 6-hour unscripted, just, how I do things, and it's like, when I was putting those tickers up on the stream and stuff for the first time, seeing how that mechanic worked, like, man, this road is iconic. Like, this is like it's a little bit too low elevation, but this would almost look like one of those shining type roads where you're on like the side of the mountain, and we gotta find a spot like that. Like, where is that supposed to be again? I forget. The lodge from The Shining. See, seems like it's not Vermont, but it seems like a place that would be similar to that. Ferry to New York State. We're listening to the concept here, like the ego based, like, oh, doing social media is egotistical, narcissistic. Okay, compared to what? Social contrivance, like, same thing with like thinking. Thinking is a bad thing, but social contrivance is just a lower form of thought. Anything anybody could say to you, you could think to yourself or more and be objective and more full and more complete. It's just a dumbed down version of that. And then the same thing is true of, just the fact of the, whatever, like you do something variable, unpredictable, people are shocked by that, it's framed as a negative. But the thing is that what happens is just social contrivance angle of it is as follows, that they're both forms of thought anyway. It's like if you objectively observe something, that's a reaction to the mind, but if you socially contrive, that's a reaction to the mind that counters it instead of using it, observing it. And then also it's the fact of just think about the unconditional and how the projections are present there and stuff like that. But what we need is the fact of the there's one other point with that, the stupid, like, everything's a reaction to, like social media, narcissism and stuff. But everything is narcissistic then, and that's what people value and that's what people reward. So it's kind of like, when you tell somebody about your day, what's the difference between doing that and if you did a blog about it, or again, a video, you're eating food, you're talking about the food with somebody at a restaurant, versus doing a review of it, making a video of it? It's like, it is stupid, I agree it's stupid, but social contrivance is also stupid. And actually it's kind of the opposite, that like it's a more narrow form of the same thing. So social contrivance is a form of egotism anyway, that like, who cares about your day? Who cares what you think about that? Like, you're just a random person doing a random thing every day, mundane life. But people are constantly socially contrived. But if you're really like, just mission focused, goal focused, then you wouldn't do that. But people are constantly appealing to ego and using it dependent on percent, pretense, incentive, whatever. So like, what does that mean? Right, so again, criticize social media, like, it's dumb. Why would you record yourself eating food and do a review? Or why would you, whatever, like what I'm doing now even. Why would you do that? It's egotistical, but you don't see that social contrivance is egotistical too. You're insisting upon yourself and your mundane everyday experiences versus like a standard. Like, okay, if I'm discussing something insightful or interesting, depending on how you define it, but that's typically not the standard that people are held to. It's kind of the irony of like how people say social media and desensitization, or like the internet and stuff. The internet has all information ever in human history, and every book ever, every philosopher ever. So any ordinary conversation you're having with a random person in front of you is going to be less interesting or less complete than what you can have from that. Because objectively, the same thing they're saying could be on there, and way more insightful things, and better works of literature, better quotes, better things. So it's a non-true value basis. You don't really value something on a standard. You're valuing it based on nearness, based on proximity to self, based on ego gratification, something weird like that. But objectively, on a standard basis, you're not credible, because it's like, you're desensitized by having more options, by having higher standards, by having greater degree of value, by having something objectively better by the same process, like however you define it. Like, that was a funny joke that this person told, but outside of social contrivance, ego gratification, incentive, you could find funnier jokes even by your own subjective standard, same standard, whatever, or you could have found that same joke online. So that's the subversive value. It's like you're not credible because you're not truly valuing things, because if you did, that infinite objective resource or other things, or even the objective mind, would come into play. But Vermont teddy bear tours daily. Countryside Motel, Shelburne, Vermont. A good thing you say Shelburne, Vermont, because otherwise I wouldn't know where we are. So we got about 20 minutes left to where I'm going. It wasn't too bad of a trip. It's kind of boring a little bit. Oh my god. But let's look at this concept of like cameras and like the fallacy of like, if you're not doing anything wrong, you have nothing to hide. But then by that logic, the government should be the same. That we should watch what they do all day, every day, every conversation they have, never behind closed doors, accountability like that. And that's like a guilty until proven innocent kind of basis that like and that's how society is designed. Like there's a lot of laws, a lot of restriction, a lot of accountability. You have to prove that you're not bad, or that, somehow justify yourself, licenses, permits, etc. But not that. So the gas here is actually higher than New York. A little bit. But yeah, you have to like justify yourself and get permission to do anything instead of the opposite. There'd have to be a good reason to restrict and inhibit you, but people are buying into that propaganda that allows them to be easily controlled in a mass collective state. But no, the thing is that, like, how do they allow themselves to be controlled? Because they buy into the propaganda against human beings, like, that people are, on one hand, bad, but on the other hand, gratifying, socially contrived, so that they somehow need permission to do anything, or they, whatever. The thing that makes people hardest to control is the one who has no ego, no incentive. Like, they don't care. That's the one character, I won't even say the name, that I always wrote about. Like, they just don't care. You don't get it. Even by them not caring, it's not them doing it in protest, and they just genuinely, like, they see reality for what it is, and that's it. They have no ego, they have no incentive, they're simple, they're minimalist. Like, there's no way to control them. Ego gratification training, like an animal thing. So the one thing I was talking about is the way that like sometimes options and things of what people value is just what's available to them. Like, oh, you happen to grow up there, that's local, so therefore you value it for that reason alone. There's no real standard behind it, no real choice, no real thought put into it. So people are reactionary, easily controlled that way. And they also feel kind of like this place seems kind of like a small town, but it seems very like clean and almost sophisticated. The way the buildings are and everything is like very almost posh, whereas some of these areas might be like a little richer side. But interesting contrast. You go from farmlands to like rich. You don't think of that, but but that's always what happens, is like, people in the city will take credit for the success of the people who are out working hard out in the countryside, and it should be a little salty about that. Like all the benefits of city life, but then you complain about, oh, it's more expensive. It's like, okay, then live out in the country. Red Apple Motel. Man, all these dingy, shitty hotels. So what was the one point I was saying? I want to wrap that point up. The fact of, people buy into the dehumanizing rhetoric of like, people are bad, so they have to be controlled by their mere potential. So like, oh, they could do something wrong, so they have to be restricted and seek permission, and they need permission for anything they do. Or like the ego base is like, oh, you must be narcissistic or egotistical that you believe that you could do anything, or that to be free. You need permission to be free instead of you need a reason not to be free and to be inhibited. And then the flip side of that is the fact there's something I love about some of the way these buildings look. Like everything looks so like well maintained. You need permission to do things, or really well maintained city. It looks like, which this isn't even Burlington yet. This is like the Shelburne or whatever. But yeah, like that social contrivance gratification is used. It's not that you need permission, it's that you don't subscribe to that ego basis at all of right, like people buy into that, like the permission, the competing hierarchical thing. But one of the great culprits with that is just the sheer number of people that you have. When you have so many people and you preserve the same acme flippantly, that's what tends to happen. Like a cool area though. I kind of like this compared to some of the, maybe that Bennington was that seemed a little more drab and kind of almost depressing. But that Walmart was, we got to see the Walmart here. Like that Walmart was wild, bro. That is the dingiest, tiniest Walmart you've ever seen. Green Mountain Drive, the name of the state drive, or the tagline of the state. I feel like the same thing you would value in one case based on appearance and pretense performative just means you're being controlled by it. Is that really a credible basis? But you don't really think, you don't really define your standard of self-actualization from an inherent-based state that I've talked about. So it's kind of useless even doing this because people are just not. There should be no need. You have a brain too. People have a brain too. They can think and be objective for themselves. So it shows you they don't really want to, or they don't really. But that's really the conclusion of the objective aspect. You're not really telling people what to do or what not to do. You're just simply being objective and showing like what objective critical thinking would be like. And then if people were fully aware and objective, would they still do the same things they do? And the only thing I'd say with that is, in some cases, sure, they might still do exactly the same thing, but it wouldn't be en masse in a mass scale universal like the way they are, because it wouldn't be uniform and universal in that manner. Like, so this seems like a proper city, but I mean, it's still going to be on. Like, this is the biggest city in Vermont, apparently. I think it takes on like a different form, right? The cynicality of people becomes greater the more people there are, and the more they become controlled in an overextended way. Like, they have to keep up the appearance and pretense of that. That social contrivance, we value other people, but then you want it in an assembly line machination process where it's like something very fleeting and meaningless and zero sum and functional. The point with absolutists, you would separate and say, let's not pretend it's socially contrived if we value the machination process over extension. Or if we do, then do it fully long form, true value. Like, don't do it halfway where we define people as human functions and take that seriously. You don't take it seriously. You do it maybe if it's needed, but yeah, there's a lot of these around this area, like the border area and the Hannaford, which I don't see a lot of those in Syracuse, or any of those really. It's more towards this eastern New York into Vermont. Vermont liquor store, so I feel like I don't know actually what the law is, but it seems like maybe I don't know. They might be state run or something, or that's Pennsylvania, I think. Why is yeah, like social contrivance is competing appearances and stuff. So it might seem worthwhile, or it seems like, oh, you like the ability to do something, but it's always that way. Like the emperor has no clothes fallacy. Like you like the ability to do it versus maybe you don't want to do it, maybe there's a flaw of doing it, maybe remove the need. That's what the absolutists would do, or inherent based state. They would hold everything accountable. Like, okay, that's fine, that might seem necessary in a reactionary way. Is that really what you want? Is that really necessary? It's only necessary in an imbalance created by that contrivance state in the first place. So it's necessary for that contrivance state. Is that contrivance state really necessary and uniform, universal? So it'll be framed, you lack the ability, but that'd be true in any contrivance state. You lack the ability to do the contrivance state in Germany in World War II and China right now and anything. It doesn't really matter because you would say that no matter what. So you can't choose or self-actualize. It's these presumed collective things forced upon you universally, uniformly, treating you like animals, projecting things to control you even if they don't apply. Stimuli acme especially. And so libations, man, what a sign. Let's try to euphemize and dress up what you're really saying. So yeah, that little fire extinguisher thing was the highlight here. I just don't know exactly what it is, but China Express, Chinese food takeout or eat in. Actually, very few of them are eat in anymore. Yeah, like everything in a mass scale, non-true value, all to reinforce regurgitate existing state, not true full value, like amalgam theory, minimalist, so you're in that overextended where you benefit from the overextension, but you don't value it in overextension like amalgam theory. So it's kind of a complicated explanation, but Dunkin', that's Dunkin' without the donuts, right? Doesn't it? No, maybe just the coloration is different, but yeah, like true value, full value, everything is not possible. Ego basis is present there. Yeah, this is a nice little area though, I like it. Oh man. What was it, Cinco de Mayo yesterday? Little journey there. Yeah, like one final thing is like people who are straightforward, unconditional, like, oh, they have nothing to hide, so they're pretty straightforward. Then you'll, criticize or not be at peace with their performative aspects and stuff. But the one who has positive performative aspects, they've trained it, they've been to sales school for it, they try really hard, emphasis, they have something to cover up or overcompensate, or they have some incentive. But the one who's kind of drab and boring is like, oh, they lack the ability projection, but maybe they just lack the incentive. They don't care. They respect people's intelligence. They want people to think for themselves, remove the need, whatever. So it turns into that, like, maybe that's what it is. Maybe they just don't want anything. Or the fallacy, like, you benefit from contrivance, but you're also inhibited by contrivance, overextended, defer. So a lot of things only necessary by contrivance. Right, because of contrivance. Okay, we're almost there. Burlington. Yeah, it seems underwhelming though as like the biggest city if you were to consider that, like, it's a, you know, nice city, but it's not the whatever. It's not, doesn't feel that big. Oh man. It seems like a rich area though. That would be my first. Just something kind of posh about it. Yeah, like the false absolute default thing, like people playing innocent even though they're benefiting from privileged vampires or overextended amalgam, everything. But not only that, even like stimuli acme privilege or preconception, but you want the benefit of it, you play into it, you put effort into it, looks and stuff, but you don't want accountability for it, basically. It's like this certain framing you need for people to be controlled, like where you appeal to that symbol, really. These roads are a little rough. like everything's permissible in that way. Like you need permission for it, or you create like, oh, you can be free conditionally, but on the weekend or whatever. Like not inherently. Everything's like imbalance over one extreme to the other, imbalance over compensation before. So that's what you would do. Like your human function contrived thing. Like so you would do some extreme reduction of your potential and thought, and then you would do something like then you would do some extreme overcompensation. You gotta get drunk and stuff. So that means you're not really free, versus an absolutist like could be at peace. And what that means is